You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
You've heard it before. People are disconnected from their food. I hear it too. It's one of the central problems in our food system. But what does that actually mean? What does it look like? Because it's not just about skipping the farmer's market or buying boxed mac and cheese. It's about how far we've drifted from the land, the labor, the seasons, and even our own health. Disconnection is why we don't blink at strawberries in February. We just don't see the issue. It's why most of us couldn't name a single farmer we've bought from. It's how a broken food system hides in plain sight. You're listening to One Bite is Everything, the podcast that reconnects you to your food one story at a time. I'm your host, DiPrima. I'm a question asker and a detective of sorts, trying to figure out what's wrong with our food system and how to fix it, just one small step at a time. Today on the show, we're going to break down what it really means to be disconnected from our food and what happens when we start to close that gap. Oh, yeah, and how we close it, just a little bit at a time. I'm going to do my best to break down the layers of disconnection we rarely talk about, from geography to nutrition, economics to empathy. We'll look at how our food got so anonymous and how that anonymity costs us a lot more than we think. You'll learn why disconnection isn't just inconvenient, it's the root of policy failure, health decline, and environmental damage. What our year-round produce aisle says about power and perception, and simple, practical ways you can start reconnecting without shame, overwhelm, or perfection. We just can't handle all of that. And then there's one quiet but powerful truth I want you to sit with. The more you know where your food comes from, the more power you have to change the system that feeds us all. So if you're ready to see what reconnection looks like and why it matters more than ever, stick around for this episode of One Bite is Everything. Being disconnected from your food means you've lost the thread between what's on your plate and the world it came from. It means that food has become a product, not a story. You might not know who grew your lettuce, how your eggs were raised, or what it took to get that avocado from the field to the store. You might not think twice about strawberries in the winter or asparagus in October. And you're not alone. In fact, research suggests that fewer than 1 in 10 Americans have spoken with a farmer in the past year. And when I ask my friends to name even one farmer that they've bought from, most can't. It's not judgment, it's just a sign of how far removed most of us have become from the people who feed us. This disconnection has layers: geographic, seasonal, personal, nutritional, and economic, and each one carries real consequences. Let's start with geography. The average meal in the United States travels more than 1,500 miles before it reaches your plate. Think about that. Your spinach might come from California, your apples from Chile, your fish from Norway, and your coffee from Colombia, all for one meal. We've created a food system that's global, convenient, and efficient in some ways, but also fragile and really anonymous. When something travels that far, you lose touch with how it was grown, by whom, and under what conditions. That distance also costs us freshness, nutrients, and flavor. Spinach loses about half of its vitamin C within just a few days of harvest, and you can't see that. By the time it's traveled across the country, it's a shadow of what it was. And yet, we've normalized that. We're so used to perfect produce year-round that we don't even question why we can get blueberries in February. This brings us to seasonality. Once upon a time, you could taste the seasons in your meals. Strawberries in June, tomatoes in August, squash in October. Now, industrial agriculture and global logistics have flattened those rhythms. We've trained ourselves to expect every food all the time. Now, it's convenient for sure, But it comes at a cost. We lose anticipation, appreciation, and connection. We lose the understanding that nature rests, that soil needs time, that crops have cycles. And when we eat strawberries in winter, we're participating in a system that burns massive amounts of fuel to move fragile produce across thousands of miles. Seasonality isn't just about nostalgia. It's about ecology, energy, and empathy. Eating seasonally isn't just fresher. It's a quiet way of saying, I see the rhythms of the land and I'm in sync. I have a friend, Amy, who eats so many tomatoes during the summer out of her garden that she's sick of them and really loves the wait until the next summer rolls around. And I love that. All right, there's the human side, what I call personal disconnection. Fewer than 2% of Americans farm for a living. That means almost all of us are at least 2, 3, or even 4 steps removed from the people who grow our food. Most of us have never stood in a barn, walked a field, or seen how weather, policy, or labor shortages shape what ends up on the shelf. We've separated the act of eating from the act of growing, and when that happens, empathy fades. We stop noticing what farmers are up against: rising costs, unpredictable weather, volatile markets, and a constant tug of war for fair prices. When we don't know a farmer, it's easy to forget that behind every apple, egg, or loaf of bread is a person, or many people. There's also nutritional disconnection, the way industrial food hides itself in plain sight. Walk through a supermarket. Most of what you see is processed, packaged, or preserved. Many items don't resemble anything grown on a farm. And behind those labels are supply chains that reach around the world. A tomato sauce might contain tomatoes from China, herbs from Turkey, and sugar from Brazil. We lose track of not just distance, but quality. Ultra-processed foods now make up nearly 60% of the average American diet. And the more processed food, the more likely it is to be high in sodium, sugar, and additives, and low in the micronutrients that our bodies actually need. Disconnection here isn't just mental, it's physical. It shows up in rising rates of obesity, diabetes, and chronic illness, diseases tied directly to what we eat and how disconnected it is from the natural world. All right, let's get to it. There's money, that economic layer. When you spend $1 on local food, studies show that that same dollar can circulate through your local economy up to 7 times. That means that your purchase isn't just supporting the farmer, but also the local feed mill, the truck repair shop, the farmer's market, the small cafe that buys from that farmer, and so on. But when you buy food shipped in from far away or owned by global corporations, most of that money leaves your community the second you swipe your card. Economic disconnection drains rural towns, erodes local businesses, and concentrates power in a handful of multinational companies. And those companies, in turn, influence how and what we eat, prioritizing efficiency, shelf stability, and profit over diversity and nourishment. And let's get down to the land. This is the environmental piece. Our food system accounts for roughly a third of global greenhouse gas emissions. And when we're talking about that third, we're really talking about the industrial complex. From fertilizer production, transportation, packaging, and food waste, every step leaves a footprint. When food travels far, when soil is depleted, when monocultures replace biodiversity, the planet feels it. Disconnection makes it easier not to notice or not to care. Reconnection makes you aware that every bite is part of an ecosystem, one that can heal or harm. So why does all of this matter? Because disconnection breeds complacency. This is a wake-up call. Otherwise, we allow bad policies to go unchecked. We allow exploitative labor practices to continue. And we allow our farmers to remain invisible and we, essentially, powerless. It costs us, really. We spend more on healthcare, more on cleanup, more on subsidies, and more on fixing the damage of a broken system. When we reconnect, when we close that distance, we don't just eat better. We make the whole system more resilient. Connection gives us power, the power to make informed choices, to support the kinds of farms and foods we want to see thrive. So, what do we do about all of this? How do we start to reconnect? It doesn't have to be complicated. It can start small. What if you shop locally once a week? Visit a farmer's market, a farm stand, or a co-op. Shake a farmer's hand. Ask questions. How was this grown? How were these animals raised? The more we ask, the more transparent the system becomes. You can also try cooking seasonally. Let what's available guide your menu instead of a recipe app. Read some labels. Learn the origin of your ingredients. If it comes from 6,000 miles away, ask yourself why. Is there something that you can get that's similar, but just a little bit more local? Grow something. You can even grow a pot of herbs on your windowsill, and that will help connect you to the process of growing. You can join a CSA, or community-supported agriculture. It's a direct partnership between you and a local farm. You pay up front, and as the harvest rolls out, so do boxes of beautiful produce. You can support small farms online. You can nominate one for a grant through the For Farmers movement. You can fund a wish list for a farmer, just picking up one item or two that they need on their farm. You can also give $1 to a grant that supports local farmers. Imagine 100 of you standing together in one field, each having contributed just a little bit, and that farmer can really thrive. Every one of these small actions closes the gap between you and your food. Reconnecting is not about guilt. It's about awareness. When you eat closer to home, food tastes better. It nourishes you more deeply. It strengthens local economies and reduces emissions, and it helps keep family farms alive. It gives you something that's hard to measure, but easy to feel. A real sense of belonging. Because when you know where your food comes from, you also know where you fit in to this big picture. Food isn't just food. It's health and community and economy and environment all on your plate. When we reconnect, even in small ways, we begin to reshape that system from the ground up. So, the next time you sit down to eat, ask yourself one simple question. Where did this come from? And who made it possible? If you can answer that, even partially, you're already on your way to reconnection. And that is where real change begins. Being disconnected from our food isn't just a personal problem. It's systemic. It shapes what we eat, how we farm, who gets paid, and what gets lost. But reconnection, that's where the power lives. You don't need to be a homesteader or give up grocery stores. You just need to notice, ask questions, support one farmer, cook one seasonal meal, read one label with fresh eyes, because every one of those moments brings you back to the land, to the people, and to the purpose behind your plate. If this episode gave you just a little something to think about, or helped you see your food differently, or inspired you to make just one teeny change, maybe even just for today, go ahead and leave a 5-star rating and a little written review. It helps One Bite is Everything keep growing, one curious listener at a time. Thank you so much to Russell Chapa, sound designer, engineer, and musician behind the mic. Until next time, this is One Bite is Everything. I am your host, DiPrima. Eat like it matters, because it does.